Well, Kunal, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you being here this morning. It's I guess been a couple of weeks. We had a golf tournament we co-sponsored the other day for the Chicago Dental Society, so that was a lot of fun. Do you do a lot of stuff like that, kind of out in the community? And
We do a ton with of course, the Chicago Dental Society. This is my hub here. This the evening events. We get, of course, a midwinter. That's a big one. We had a huge booth last year. Of course, we missed you.
Yep.
Looking forward to the next year one. But we do a ton of events. We have there was something I didn't get a chance to go, Kaiser Tiger for new grad, and there's a new one coming up in August, so I'll be there as well. So absolutely, would love to be part of this. I mean, we're here. We want to help these doctors here locally, and we're always doing all these events. Plus, we do a ton of nationwide as well.
I was going to say, a lot in Chicago, but I think you mentioned earlier you were in San Antonio recently. So I guess to back up a little bit, I guess what do you do exactly? And you're with U.S. Bank, so kind of what do you do with U.S. Bank?
So I'm with the U.S. Bank's Healthcare Practice Finance Group. I cover our Midwest market, Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas. That's my territory. But I work with clients all over the U.S. We work with, so there's no restriction if a doctor wants to start a practice in Dallas or it could be Miami. We can help them with that as well. My specific as far as when I say healthcare is such a broad term, right? But my focus is dental, medical, and veterinarian. So that's our specialty, ophthalmology, etc. So if a doctor who comes to me and say, hey, I want to acquire a practice, or I want to start a practice, or we're looking to expand my practice, whether it's relocation or second, third location, we can help them with all areas of financing. So that's one aspect of it. The other is as far as with their banking, which is a huge thing. And U.S. Bank being it's a top five. It's a large bank. It's the fifth largest bank in U.S. with over 3,500 branches nationwide, third largest footprint. But I always say U.S. Bank always feels like it's a small community bank.
Yeah.
You don't hear U.S. Bank in any news as far as the negative news, so to speak. So I consider one of the most ethical companies, not just a bank in the world, last 10, 12 years in a row. So what I do, I mean, as far as I've been here for about 10 months now, and my focus is, again, on the lending side, I have a team that does everything from banking, treasury, cash management.
So when thinking about banking as it relates to lending, kind of help me understand for the doctors, there's, when you go to a bank, you have your community banks, you have your bigger banks like yourself. But then even once you get into that, I don't think a lot of people realize the difference between commercial lending and healthcare lending, and some of the pros to having a specific lender that's knowledgeable and works directly with physicians compared to, a commercial lender at your local branch. So can you, I guess, explain the difference between those spheres?
It's a great question. And you would come across clients like that as well. We have discussions about it where a doctor would go to a local bank who might be more asset-based lender and look at more of the collateral, look at their assets, private versus commercial assets versus the way healthcare practice finance underwriting is done is we look at the goodwill of the practice, the collections of the practice, right? So that differentiated gives them more, when you want to go higher amounts, a lot of local commercial banks might not be able to underwrite those deals versus a bank like U.S. Bank who has a specialty division, a practice finance division. So I come across clients who go through the process with local commercial banks, and they can't finance 100%, or they can do percentage. They require a certain down payment versus someone like U.S. Bank with our specialty group, we can do 100% financing. So that's a big differentiator. You also want to work with a bank who can provide solutions as well beyond lending for the doctors, whether it's a revenue cycle management, that's a huge thing. Because, I mean, frankly, lending is the easier part. Running a practice, that's the harder part. So
you touched on 100% financing for practice acquisitions. I think that confuses people sometimes too. They might be talking to a local commercial lender and he says, oh yeah, we can do it SBA, and so you'll have a low down payment, and you can do SBA, but that's very different than a practice loan, right?
Correct. Practice loan, we essentially go against the goodwill, the intrinsic value of the practice itself. So we look at the collections and up to a certain percentage. Typically, we can do 100% financing, but then there's be times where we might have to go 100%, which includes working capital. So we can do that as well. Versus, and we do have a SBA. We are a SBA preferred lender. Absolutely, we can do that all day. We have great partners on the SBA side. They can help doctors or non-doctors. But you, as far as the 100% financing that you touched on, and it does. We look at the value of the collections, the goodwill. We look at, of course, the equipment that they have as well. So things like that. But yes.
Yeah. I occasionally meet with doctors that, well, they fall in different categories, but the average practice is doing about $700,000 in collections, and some think that's worth $5 million, and some don't value it enough. They don't see the value in what they've created. What do those conversations look like when you're talking with doctors that are just trying to understand their practice? Maybe they need new equipment, and so they need to value their practice to see, can I finance some new equipment, or maybe they're looking to sell their practice. What do those conversations look like for you in terms of how a valuation is calculated for the value of what they've built?
So typically, I'll speak from a U.S. bank perspective. We can go up to 95% of average at 2 years of collections. That's essentially the value. That's the equity, the goodwill in the practice. So it includes, hey, you currently have some debt, and then whatever additional we can use to leverage towards buying the equipment. Most of the banks would always want to, and I come across it all the time, where a bank or a doctor might have a outstanding loan somewhere else, and they would want to now work with the same bank, whether maybe the transaction didn't go through with the acquisition, but now they want to buy additional equipment. As a matter of fact, I just spoke with somebody last Friday who didn't want to deal with it. But in that case, situation like that, we certainly we can help them. But what we wouldn't want to do is we would have to incorporate the original debt as well. People want to take that over, because any banks would want to be in the first lien position for that. So yes, we can absolutely help them with that, but we also have to look at what the outstanding they have, and then we can put the whole package together and bring it over. The one thing with the equipment financing, we have a great equipment financing division. So time to time, where situations like this, where the doctor don't want to refinance their loan, we could just have an equipment lien on it. But again, we can certainly look at that as well. So.
Yeah. And who do you typically lend to? So do you lend to young doctors that maybe just graduated, maybe just finished a residency, and now they're looking to buy a practice? Or is it more seasoned doctors? I guess, who are you lending to?
It's a great question. I work with all areas of clients. I work with clients who have been graduated for a year and looking to acquire a practice, or I work with clients who have been practicing as an associate for 10 plus years and now looking to grow a practice out. And I'm recently working with a client doctor who is in her 50s, and she's like, you know what, I've been an associate for 20 years. I'm looking to now work for the next 15 years in my own practice. So we're helping her with the acquisition.
That's awesome.
So yeah, absolutely. There is no, there's no age limits per se. I mean, of course, I would always recommend doctors get some experience, especially if you're out of college. I know there's some banks immediately out of college, they want to lend them, which is okay. But I'd say get some experience, work at a private practice. Of course, the DSOs out there will pay more, but working in a private practice with a good doctor, getting that experience, the clinical experience is very, very crucial. But also the other side of it as well, when somebody, I know we're going on a different tangent with the question, but with the younger doctors, one thing I always recommend, start putting a team together. And I think we have talked about it before as well. Having the right people, the right banker, the CPAs, the right CPAs as well, the attorneys, everybody on your team. Yep. So when you have the vision that, hey, in the next few years, once I have enough clinical experience, I'm ready to move to the ownership stage, I have my team ready to go. So,
yeah, no, I think that's an excellent point. And I always ask everybody that sits down with me, what is one piece of advice you'll leave us with? And the most common response I get is have a great team around you. So, I mean, I think that's so true to, have a broker that can help you on the consulting side, have a CPA that can help you understand the internal portion of the business. Bankers, attorneys, that don't just work in whatever their specialty is, but in your field, in dental, in healthcare, if they sell retail buildings or if they, do residential mortgages, they're not going to understand the practice. They're not going to understand your pain points, your challenges. So having a team that can empathize and really work to help you grow.
And is consulting, there are consultants out there, they charge a ton of fees, and especially newer doctors, if it's a startup, I always recommend working with a consultant. But I'll say I'm a consultant as well. My consulting is completely free. Doesn't cost you anything. You have my personal cell. Call me any time of the day. Hey, I want to run this by you. This is what I see. I'll tell you my honest opinion about it. And if it doesn't make sense, I don't want you to go through that. So,
yeah, I think there's a lot out there that can trip people up, to say the least. So, just being mindful of, is the person giving you advice really there to help you, or are they just doing a job to collect a fee? And, maybe the advice is good, maybe it's not. So, yeah, I think that's a good point. Take advantage of bankers that understand the product, and will give you unbiased advice.
Yeah. I recently came across, it was actually a week or 2 weeks ago, I was referred by another doctor that I worked with. I guess the doctor liked me, so. So she referred me, and I was talking to the doctor, and the doctor was working with a different bank competitor and certain brokers. And one of the things she mentioned is it's just like a circle, like around and around. Everybody's somehow trying to, refer each other, which is fine. I work with everyone as well, but I feel like for me, I feel like my number one priority is the client, the doctor. I want to do right by them, and build a long-term relationship, build the trust so they can trust you, as far as, and not just, hey, I'm doing it alone and I'm done with you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I guess I could understand that perspective of, there's only a small group of us that are really dedicated to this space. So it might seem like we're referring to each other a lot, but it's because we know and trust that person. Yeah. But that is different than, I think, to maybe what you were suggesting, which is where it's not necessarily, oh, I know this guy can do really good. It's, hey, this is my buddy, and maybe
exactly,
less beneficial. But so tell me a little bit more about US Bank. Obviously a huge bank, been around a long time, but there seems to be a really big push in the healthcare space. You guys are growing like crazy. Kind of talk me through what's the precipice for all that.
So US Bank, and I mentioned before, it's the fifth largest bank, but it doesn't feel like it's one of those large, big banks out there. You always hear good things, never negative about US Bank. So what attracted me when I moved to US Bank 10 months ago was, so the head of healthcare, his name is Joseph Persichetti. He's been in this space for 25 years, 25 years, Bank of America, and then he moved to Huntington. So when he came over last year, his vision is, we want to be the destination for doctors. And when I say destination for doctors, that means we want to help them with everything, not just, hey, we do your loan, but we do have relationship managers locally here within US that can help you with your day-to-day banking. We set up your account, we help them. We have a whole array of treasury, cash management products. One of the things that I saw this, we have this in-house merchant, and there are very few banks, even bigger banks, they have outsourced their merchant processing system. We have our in-house. We're one of the two banks, I think Chase and us are the only ones that have. It's called Through Rectangle. It's a HIPAA compliant product. It's amazing. And next time, if you want, we can spend a whole session just on that, showing you
interesting.
That. So things like that, providing true solutions and be the destination for the doctors, that's his vision.
Yeah.
So we have I'm a business development officer. There is about 14 of us and growing nationwide, but we do, our main goal is to bring in clients, onboard clients with the lending side of things. But then we do have a relationship manager, 50 nationwide, that helps them, the doctors, with account opening, relationship management, day-to-day, all that stuff. And then, like I mentioned, everything else. So we want to help doctors, not just with the loans, but everything. And then the other side of it is, on a personal consumer side, we have partners on the mortgage side that can help doctors with ownership of a home, or wealth management or insurance, whatever it may be. So we want to be one full-fledged service bank for the doctor versus them going in 10 different directions and they're confused with what's happening out there.
They have a single resource that can help them in all aspects. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah. No, I think there's
one-stop shop. Yeah.
a tremendous value in that. I mean, especially for physicians that are so limited in their time, wasting time trying to vet, a source or, go look for something. If you have one trusted partner that either that relationship manager can help you, or if not, there's someone within his group or his team that, can assist you, can save a tremendous amount of time, I would imagine. Because at the end of the day, their focus should really be on patient care. So anything you can do to kind of facilitate that, I think goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Before we sat down, you mentioned you had some questions for me, so I'm curious to hopefully I have the right answers to.
Are you ready?
Field them.
So tell me more about Caton. Tell me about you. How'd you get into this space?
Yeah. So my wife and I, we have a 2-year-old son, moved up from Austin, Texas a couple of years ago. Had been in the real estate space, in the healthcare space, and transitioning up to Chicago, wanted to find a local group, not a big shop, but big enough that it had all the resources to support me. And was just super blessed to run into Amy Hall and Christina Caton and kind of connect with them. Built a great relationship and joined Caton, and pretty quickly realized there was a gap in the Chicago market, and throughout the Midwest. There were some really strong players in the healthcare space, but it seemed like a lot of doctors, especially on the sell side, were kind of perhaps, in lack of a better words, being neglected. So if they didn't fit this kind of cookie cutter box, they just were kind of ignored. So I saw a huge opportunity in the market to be an advocate and a resource for those men and women. So it's what we've been doing for the past couple of years, is similar to what you were suggesting for US Bank, is building a platform, whether it's consulting on the sales side or just being somebody. I joke all the time, I spend all day answering questions. So, even if I'm not helping you or doing something to earn a fee, that's okay. I just want to build the trust, be someone that local doctors can come to and say, hey, I need help with X. Okay, I know a great equipment guy that can assist you with that, or whatever it might be. So that's what Caton is. They've been around since the early 80s, primarily in real estate. So we've expanded over the years. We have our own valuation team located out in St. Charles, property management here in Naperville, the brokerage side here in Naperville. So we help doctors with practice brokerage. And then real estate is, of course, a function of your practice. You got to have somewhere to pull teeth and do x-rays. So whether it's lease renewals, lease negotiations, or any sort of real estate sales or acquisitions we assist with. So, we've had the opportunity to really, dive into the market and take a huge share of that healthcare space. And I think that's just a testament of our willingness and ability to kind of approach challenges with kind of a unique perspective and just be honest at the end of the day. If we can help you, great. And if not, we know other people we could introduce you to, because at the end of the day, we just want to solve your problems and help making your life easier. So that's kind of the goal. That's what we work on every day. And I'd like to think we do a pretty good job at it.
That's awesome. That's great. I one thing you mentioned is that it's okay for you won't win every single business, but you want to do the right by the client.
Yep.
And I've told, same thing here. There are times where a borrower might come and be like, hey, it might make sense if you already have an approval. Stick with what you have. Let's not try to reinvent the wheel.
Yep.
So I do appreciate that about you a lot. Now, the follow-up question, are you focusing a lot on, right now there's a lot of stuff happening in the dentistry space, right? Are you focusing on just one sector, or is there industry agnostic when it comes to healthcare? Or?
So similar, I think, very much to the lending side. So if you write scripts, that's kind of within our wheelhouse. So any physician or MD or physician group is somebody that we typically work with. So whether that's an outpatient surgery center or ophthalmology or dentistry, kind of all of the above. I would say dentistry tends to be kind of the most volume. They're just a very entrepreneurial group, so tend to be movers and shakers out there. So that does take a lot of our time, but we do assist other groups as well.
That's good. That's awesome. I think that's it for questions. Any more questions for me?
Not too bad. I thought it was going to be a rough
it's
interrogation. So yeah, I mean, we do a lot.
Tell me what takes you.
Yeah. So, and we try to be involved in the community, just like you. So I sit on the finance committee for the Chicago Dental Society. You and I mean, run into each other at almost every CDS branch. We'll have a table there sponsoring the event for the evening. And I just think it's important. We're not clinicians. We can't work at the clinic in Wheaton. So this is just one way we can kind of give back and donate time. So it's nice getting out there and, meeting people and, building those relationships. So I enjoy it.
It's great. Anything else for me?
Yeah. So you were talking about merchant services. HIPAA compliance is a big piece of that. So I guess talk me just at a high level, I guess, for a doctor that's, maybe not happy with their current system, or maybe they're starting up a practice and that's on their checklist of things they need to sort out. Why is, outside of maybe they're doing their loan and have other relationships with US Bank, what makes that merchant service kind of unique and beneficial?
It's a great question. One of the things, as far as and as you know, there are a lot of practices are moving towards fee for service. Merchant is from payment collections, as you know, right? And having that processing ready to go, and having different resources available within the merchant platform as well, because they can. I've seen where doctors come in like, "Oh, patients forgot their credit card." Yeah. Well, with the merchant processing that we offer, one of the ways it's called click to call, where they can actually, the software can send a text and they can pay through their phone. Online services, there's a lot of different resources. Am I going to say I'm an expert on the merchant with the US Bank? I'm not, but I've seen demos and what we can offer. Our merchant also integrates with most of the dental softwares that are out there, like Dentrix, for example, which makes it much easier. It batches.
That's probably a huge bonus.
It is huge. It batches 7 days a week versus some where it waits for 24 hours. So there's a lot of great benefits. Straightforward, just standard fee versus, hey, we charge you for this and we charge you if it's a MasterCard. So there's a lot of great things as far as I feel like we can spend another session on that. If you want me to, I can bring in my experts in.
Yeah.
We can go over. That'd be awesome. We can show the demo.
Yeah. So, no, I think that would be awesome. And then on the lending side, practice finance, obviously check that. But what if there's real estate involved? How does that work? Is it the traditional, used to be 20-25% down? Seems like, and more so on the commercial side, that's getting up to like 30% down a lot of times. But is that the same if you're buying a practice with real estate, or how do they finance the real estate?
So we do real estate all the time, and I would say I see a lot more on not Illinois, but like Texas market. There's just a ton of stuff in real estate practice happening. I feel like every practice that I do has a real estate involved in it. So if it's a first time, if it's a brand new acquisition, for example, if it's a first time buyer, the conventional is 80-20. That means we do 80% financing and we would require 20%. Now, this is just not a real estate. The practice will do 100%, including working capital. We'll require 20% unless if it's an SBA, 7A, then we can do 90-10, which means 90% financing, 10% down payment. In certain circumstances, if it's a first time, we could leverage the goodwill of the practice, and we can essentially do a loan against the practice for the down payment. So yes, there are circumstances that we could. Now, if a doctor, on the other side, if a doctor already has owned the practice for a few years, at least a year or more or greater, and they have shown collections, right, and now they're looking to buy the real estate for the practice, there's a higher chance of us using the equity from the practice towards the down payment.
They've already proven the concept.
Exactly.
They can run a practice.
Exactly. There's enough collections. And because the difference in the first time is when someone agrees on a practice value, we essentially say, hey, this is what you're thinking of, and this is the cap for us, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It depends a little bit on people getting you the information you ask for, but when somebody engages you, they're ready to go. Maybe they already have an LOI in place. How long does it take to get from that point to an actual closing?
It varies.
Yeah.
We can move as fast as the broker or the doctor wants to move, or we can move as slow as the doctor wants to move. I've done closings in 15, 20 days, and at times I've waited for, say, 2 months.
Yeah.
Average, I would say 30 days for non-real estate transaction, between 20 to 30 days for just practice acquisitions. If it's real estate, it does take, there's appraisal, environmental, there's title. So I would say 45 to 60 days just to be safe. Can we move fast? Absolutely, we can. Yeah. As long as we work with the doctor, with the CPA, whatever it may be, and we get as soon as we get all the package, the full package, complete package. I believe in submitting a complete package. And then once we have the initial review done and questions, we get that information quickly as well. So yes, absolutely, we can move really fast, but it all depends on.
And when you say complete package, then, so what if somebody, maybe they've been an associate, they want to go buy a practice or something, what goes into that package? What are things they need to get from the seller? What do they need to have as a buyer? What goes into that package from a document perspective?
So let's stick with the acquisition side. We need 3 years of practice financials. We need their interim financials, like 24. We are already in June, so we would need the year-to-date 24.
Yep.
And then what are the buyer's financials, at 3 years of personal returns, the personal financial statement, the production report. It's great to have that as well. That's essentially W-2s and 1099s for 3 years as well. So those are the normal. Yeah. And then there could be things that come up during the review where the credit officer might want to verify or want to check, hey, make sure that they're saying this it is, and we want to make sure this is. Yeah. And then once it takes about 2 weeks or so for the review and the approval or the final decision, we go into post-approval, pre-close. That's when there are conditions. It could be insurance for the contents insurance. It could be property insurance. It could be we need asset statements to verify to make sure what's listed on the PFS, things like that. Appraisal could be environmental, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Any parting advice before we head out? I know you mentioned you do stuff all over the country. Have a specific focus in Illinois, Arkansas,
Missouri.
Yep. Okay. Anything else for us?
No, I thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This is great. I do believe in, I think one of the missing pieces is education. Students and doctors go through the clinical side of things, and then they jump into this practice ownership, not knowing a whole lot of stuff. So having partners like yourself in the industry who can educate, who can guide this new doctors, up and coming doctors, I think it's a great initiative. I do appreciate you having me here.
Yeah. Sure. Well, no, I was very excited to get you out here this morning. So I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you probably very soon in the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Kunal.
Thank you.